The Valentine's Day I finally chose myself. Before this story begins, comment single if you've ever felt invisible on Valentine's Day. Comment healing if you're learning to love yourself first. I see you. Keep reading. This one is for you. I was sitting alone at a cafe on Valentine's Day, watching couples laugh and kiss, when I realized something that changed everything. My name is Ada. I am 26 and I hate Valentine's Day. At least that's what I told myself every year, but this year felt different. This year, the loneliness hit harder than before. My friends kept asking me to join them. They were going out tonight, a group dinner. Nothing romantic, just friends celebrating friendship, they said. I almost said no. I almost stayed home with my phone and a tub of ice cream. But something inside me whispered, go. So I went. I put on my best dress, the red one, the one I bought last year, thinking someone special would see me in it. No one ever did. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked beautiful, but I felt empty. The restaurant was decorated with red hearts everywhere. Red balloons, red roses on every table. Even the waiter wore a red bow tie. I wanted to leave the moment I walked in. My friends were already there. Chioma, Tunde, Blessing, Emeka. All single, all pretending this day didn't matter. We hugged, we laughed, we ordered food, but I could see it in their eyes. They felt it too, that quiet ache. To being free, Chioma raised her glass. We all clinked our drinks together. But the word free felt like a lie. I looked around the restaurant, couples everywhere, holding hands, feeding each other, whispering secrets, taking selfies. Their happiness felt like a spotlight on my emptiness. Are you okay? Blessing touched my hand. I smiled. I'm fine. But I wasn't fine. We ate, we talked, we joked about our terrible dating experiences. Tunde told us about a girl who ghosted him after 3 months. Emeka shared a story about a date who only talked about her ex the entire night. We laughed, but the laughter felt forced. Then Chioma said something that made everyone go quiet. Do you ever feel like something is wrong with you? No one answered, because we all felt it. That secret fear that maybe we were unlovable. Maybe we were too much or not enough. Maybe that's why we were here, together, alone. I excused myself to the bathroom. I needed air. I needed to breathe. I stood in front of the mirror. My makeup was perfect. My dress was perfect. But my eyes looked sad. I didn't recognize myself anymore. I heard laughter outside, a couple taking photos by the decorations. The girl was glowing. The guy looked at her like she was the only person in the world. I felt something twist inside my chest. When would someone look at me like that? I walked back to the table slowly. On the way, I saw an old woman sitting alone. She was eating by herself. No phone, no book, just her and her food. She looked peaceful, content. I wondered if that would be me in 30 years. I sat down. My friends were quiet now. The jokes had run out. The energy had shifted. We were all thinking the same thing. We were all feeling the same thing. I'm tired of pretending, I said suddenly. Everyone looked at me. I'm tired of acting like this doesn't hurt, like being single on Valentine's Day is empowering or liberating or whatever we're supposed to call it. It hurts. It just hurts. Chioma's eyes filled with tears. Thank you for saying that. Blessing nodded. I thought I was the only one. Tunde stared at his plate. I scroll through Instagram every Valentine's Day and feel like a failure. Emeka laughed bitterly. Same. Everyone else has someone. Everyone else figured it out, except us. We sat in that truth for a moment. No jokes, no deflection, just honesty. Then Chioma said something that made everyone go quiet. Do you ever feel like something is wrong with you? No one answered, because we all felt it. That secret fear, that maybe we were unlovable, maybe we were too much or not enough. Maybe that's why we were here, together, alone. The waiter brought dessert, heart-shaped cakes, of course. We picked at them quietly. Then something unexpected happened. A man approached our table. He was tall, well-dressed, handsome. He looked directly at me. My heart jumped. "Excuse me," he said. "I don't mean to interrupt." I held my breath. "I just wanted to say that I've been watching your table all night." Oh no, was he about to ask me out in front of everyone? "And I think what you all have is beautiful." I blinked. "What?" "Friendship," he smiled. "Real friendship, the kind where you can be honest, where you can be yourself. My girlfriend and I," he gestured to a table behind us, "we were just talking about it. Everyone is so focused on romantic love tonight, but what you all have, that's love too." He walked away before any of us could respond. We sat there stunned. Blessing started laughing first, then Chioma, then all of us. Not fake laughter this time, real laughter, the kind that comes from relief. "Did that just happen?" Tunde shook his head. "He's right though," Emeka said quietly. "We do have something beautiful." I looked around the table at these people who showed up for me, who answered my calls, who celebrated my wins, who held me through my losses, who made me laugh when I wanted to cry, who told me the truth even when it was hard. That was love. Maybe not the love I thought I wanted, but love nonetheless. "I think I've been looking at this all wrong," I said. Chioma tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "I've been measuring my worth whether someone chooses me, whether someone wants to date me, whether someone loves me romantically. But that's not the only kind of love that matters." Blessing reached for my hand. "You're right. I'm not saying I don't want romantic love. I do, someday. But that doesn't mean my life is empty until then. It doesn't mean I'm broken. It doesn't mean I'm less than." Tunde raised his glass. To us, to friendship, to knowing our worth. We all raised our glasses. And for the first time all night, I meant it. Pause here. If you've ever sat at a table pretending to be okay when you weren't, comment pretending. You are not alone. Now keep reading, because the best part of this story is still coming. We stayed at that restaurant for another 2 hours. We talked about our dreams, our fears, our hopes. We talked about the kind of love we wanted when it finally came, the kind of partners we wanted to be. We talked about loving ourselves first. But somewhere between the second round of drinks and Tunde's dramatic retelling of his worst date ever, a woman who brought her mother along without warning, something shifted in me. Not just in my words, in my chest. Like a knot I hadn't known I'd been carrying had loosened, just slightly, just enough to breathe differently. I watched Emeka laugh until he had to wipe his eyes. I watched Blessing lean her head on Chioma's shoulder, comfortable and easy, the way you only lean on someone who has held you before. I watched Tunde talk with his hands the way he always did when he was finally truly relaxed, not performing, not posturing, just being himself among people who would not misuse that. This is love, I thought. This right here. Not perfect love, not the love that arrives at your door with roses and a rehearsed speech, but the love that picks up the phone at 11 p.m., the love that drives across the city when you say you're not okay, the love that laughs at your jokes even when they're not funny, and tells you the truth even when it stings. I had been so focused on the love I didn't have that I had nearly missed the love I did. When we finally left, the streets were quieter. Most couples had gone home. The city felt calmer, softer. Chioma linked her arm through mine as we walked to the car. "Thank you for tonight." "For what?" "For being honest, for saying what we were all thinking, for reminding me that I'm not alone." I squeezed her arm. "You're never alone. None of us are." We dropped everyone off one by one. Tunde first, then Blessing, then Emeka. Each goodbye warmer than usual. Each hug held a second longer. As if we all understood without saying it that something important had happened tonight. Something that deserved to be honored. When I finally got home, I sat on my bed and looked at my phone. Instagram was still full of Valentine's Day posts. Couples, flowers, engagement rings, romantic dinners. But this time, it didn't hurt as much. Because I realized something important. Their happiness didn't mean I was unhappy. Their love didn't mean I was unloved. Their story didn't erase mine. I had love. It just looked different than I expected. I opened my messages and sent a text to the group chat. "I love you all. Thank you for tonight." The responses came immediately. Love you too. Best Valentines ever. Same time next year? I smiled. Then I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I put my phone face down. I sat with myself in the quiet of my room with the city outside my window and the faint sound of music drifting up from somewhere below. Just me, just this, just now. And it was enough. I thought about a conversation I had with my mother on the phone 2 weeks ago. She had asked, the way she always did, if I was seeing anyone. I had said no, the way I always did.
And she'd made that small sound, not unkind, just worried, that said she hoped I would find someone soon. I'd gotten off the call feeling smaller than when it started. But sitting in my room that Valentine's night, I thought, what if my mother's worry and society's timeline and the Instagram couples, what if none of that is actually the measure of my life? What if the measure of my life is something quieter and more personal than that? What if it's whether I'm honest, whether I'm kind, whether I show up, whether I know who I am and refuse to disappear to make others comfortable? What if being whole was never about being chosen by someone else? What if it was always about choosing yourself again and again, in small ways and large ones, until choosing yourself became the most natural thing in the world? I got ready for bed. I washed off my makeup. I hung up my red dress. I looked at myself in the mirror one more time. And I saw something different this time. I saw a woman who was learning to love herself. A woman who had people who loved her. A woman who was whole, not broken. A woman who was enough, exactly as she was. The next morning, I woke up to a message from Chioma. Coffee today? I smiled and replied, yes. Because that's what love looks like sometimes. It's not grand gestures or red roses or fancy dinners. It's someone asking if you want coffee. It's showing up. It's being there. I got dressed without the pressure of the night before. No red dress this time. Just jeans and a yellow top and my favorite earrings. The ones my grandmother gave me before she passed. The ones I only wore on days I needed to feel held by something bigger than myself. I met Chioma at our favorite cafe. The same cafe where I had sat the day before, watching couples and feeling alone. But today felt different. We ordered our drinks, we sat by the window, we talked about everything and nothing. I've been thinking about what you said last night, Chioma said, about measuring our worth by whether someone chooses us. Yeah? I do that too. I wait for someone to validate me, to prove I'm worthy of love. But that's not how it works, is it? I shook my head. No. We have to know our worth first, before anyone else can see it. Chioma smiled. How do we do that? I don't know yet, I admitted. But I think it starts with moments like this, with choosing ourselves, with choosing each other, with not waiting for permission to be happy. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching people walk by, listening to the cafe music, breathing. Do you still want romantic love? Chioma asked suddenly. Yes, I said honestly, but I don't need it to complete me. I'm already complete. Chioma reached across the table and squeezed my hand. We're going to be okay. Yeah, I agreed. We are. Then Chioma set down her cup and looked at me with a particular expression she wore when she was about to say something real. Can I tell you something I've never told anyone? Always. She looked out the window for a moment and said, I almost didn't come last night. I sat in my apartment for an hour with my shoes on, ready to go, and then I just sat back down on the couch. I thought, what's the point? We're just going to sit around pretending we're fine and go home feeling worse. I stared at her. But you were the one who organized it. She said, I know. She laughed, short and rueful. I organized it because I knew everyone needed it, including me, especially me. But I was terrified it would just make everything worse. She paused. I've been really struggling, Ada, more than I've let on. I broke up with Seun 4 months ago and I still feel like a part of me is just missing. Like I left something important in that relationship and I can't get it back. I had known about the breakup. I hadn't known about the depth of the wound it had left. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because you all look so, she searched for the word, put together.
Even when you're struggling, you seem like you have a handle on it. I felt embarrassed to be the one still not over a man who wasn't even good for me. I took her hand. Chioma, you have never, not once, been too much for me. You can call me at 3 a.m. with this. You know that. Her eyes filled. I know. I just forget sometimes. Then let me remind you as many times as you need. We stayed at that cafe for 3 hours. We ordered more coffee. We shared a piece of cake. We talked about Seon and what it felt like to give someone your heart carefully and still have it returned damaged. We talked about the strange grief of ending something that wasn't right but still mattered. We talked about the rebuilding, how it happened so slowly you barely noticed it until one day you woke up and the first thought in your head wasn't him anymore. Does that actually happen? The first thought not being him? I said it happened with Delhi. Remember Delhi? She nodded. Delhi had been my relationship before. 2 years, a shared vision of the future, an ending that had felt like amputation. There was a morning, maybe 8 months after we broke up, when I woke up and my first thought was about a project at work. Just work. Nothing to do with him. And I remember lying there thinking, oh, it's starting. I'm starting to come back to myself. I smiled at the memory. It takes longer than anyone tells you, but it happens. Chioma nodded slowly. 8 months. Give or take. I'm at 4. Then you're halfway there. Maybe less. Everyone's different. She exhaled, long and deep and releasing. Thank you for not just telling me to pray about it and move on. I laughed. I would never. Our aunties would. Our aunties have never had to heal in the age of Instagram. We both laughed at that. Real laughter, the good kind. This is your reminder that healing is not linear, that I'm fine is sometimes the bravest lie we tell just to get through the day. If you're somewhere in the middle of your healing right now, comment still healing. There is no shame in that. There is only courage. Keep reading. That afternoon, walking home from the cafe, I took a longer route than usual. The kind of walk you take when you're not ready to go inside yet, when the afternoon light is doing something beautiful to the streets and you want to stay in it a little longer. I passed a park, sat on a bench for a while and watched children play, and an old man feed pigeons, and a young woman read a book with her shoes off, feet tucked under her, completely absorbed and completely at peace. I thought about the old woman from the restaurant, the one I'd seen sitting alone, eating, without a phone or a book, just being. I felt pity when I first saw her. Now, a day later, I felt something closer to admiration. There is a particular kind of courage in being comfortable alone, in not needing to fill every silence with noise, in not reaching for your phone every time your own company feels too much. I had been afraid of my own company for years. Not dramatically, not in a way I'd ever named, but in small ways. The way I always had music playing, always had something loading on my laptop, always texted someone the moment I sat still for too long. As if silence were an enemy. As if being alone with my own thoughts were a punishment rather than a practice. When did that start? I wondered. I thought back, trying to find the origin. I remembered being 18, watching my first serious boyfriend walk away, feeling a terror so sudden and complete it shocked me. Not heartbreak exactly, that came later, but a terror at the space he'd left, at the sudden absence of someone whose presence had structured my days, had given me a context, had answered the question, who are you? With, you are his. Without him, the question had no answer. So I found another person to answer it with, and another after that. And even in the spaces between people, I filled the gaps, with friends, with work, with plans, with noise. Anything to avoid the silence that asked the question I didn't know how to answer alone. Who are you, Ada? Without anyone beside you to tell you who you are. I sat on that park bench and let the question sit with me. It didn't have a clean answer, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid of it. I was 26, I was a brand manager, I was Chioma's best friend and Tunde's ear and Blessing's most reliable food critic. I was my mother's daughter and my grandmother's legacy. I was the woman in the yellow top who cried at films and burnt rice and kept a journal and had never once managed to keep a plant alive, but kept trying anyway. I was the woman sitting on a park bench on February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day, learning for the first time to be in her own presence without flinching. I was more than enough. I sat there until the light changed. Then I walked home. I got home and opened my journal. I wrote down everything I was feeling, everything I learned, everything I wanted to remember. I wrote about the restaurant and Chioma's toast and the man with the kind eyes who had seen something in our table that we had needed someone else to name first. I wrote about the old woman and what she had unknowingly taught me about peace. I wrote about Chioma's confession over coffee and what it felt like to be trusted with someone's real pain rather than their edited version of it. I wrote about Delhi, about the 8 months, about the morning I woke up and he wasn't my first thought. I wrote about the question, who are you, without anyone beside you, and all the partial answers I was slowly collecting. And then I wrote a final line. Being single on Valentine's Day doesn't mean you are alone. It means you are learning to love yourself enough to wait for the love you deserve. I closed the journal and smiled because I finally understood. Valentine's Day wasn't about having someone. It was about recognizing all the love already in your life, including the love you give yourself. And that was enough. That was more than enough.
3 weeks later, life moved on the way life does, in ordinary moments that don't announce their significance until you look back. I started doing something I hadn't done in years. Every morning, before I checked my phone, I gave myself 10 minutes, just 10, to lie in bed and think about what I was grateful for. Not in a forced, list-making way, just quietly, noticing the way the morning light came through my curtains, the fact that I had slept well, the memory of yesterday's conversation. Small things, real things. It sounds simple. It is simple. But simple things don't consistently change the texture of a life. I started saying no more, not to people I loved, but to obligations that only existed because I was afraid of what people would think of me if I said no. The birthday dinner for an acquaintance I didn't even like. The WhatsApp group that made me feel worse every time I opened it. The habit of explaining and justifying every choice I made to people who hadn't earned that access. Chioma noticed. "You seem different," she said one afternoon, 3 weeks after Valentine's Day. We were back at the same cafe because it had become our place now, our weekly Wednesday ritual. 2 cups of coffee and an hour of honest conversation. Different how? She thought about it. Lighter, like you put something down. I think I did. I think I've been carrying around this idea that I'm not enough as I am, that I'm a draft, a work in progress that only becomes the real thing when someone chooses me. I shook my head. I don't want to be a draft anymore. I want to be the real thing right now. Chioma stared at me. I need you to write that down. That was profound. It was also something I read in a book. She burst out laughing. Ada, what? The book was right. We ordered cake. Because why what? Because life is short and cake is good. And we were 2 women who were learning to stop apologizing for the space we took up and the joy we allowed ourselves. Emeka had started therapy. He told us in the group chat, casually, the way he always dropped significant information, buried in the middle of a message about something unrelated, as if hoping the casualness would soften the vulnerability of it. Had a therapy session today. Also, who's free for football on Saturday? Tunde had sent back 17 laughing emojis and then, proud of you, man. And I'm free. Blessing had sent a heart. I had sent, this made my whole day. Also, I'm not free Saturday, but tell me everything after. That was us. Imperfect and honest and showing up for each other in the particular ways we each knew how. Not perfect love, but real love. The kind that grows when you water it with honesty and time. As I walked home that afternoon, I thought about Valentine's Day, about all the years I spent hating it, feeling less than, feeling forgotten. But this year taught me something different. Love isn't just romance. Love is friendship. Love is self-worth. Love is knowing you are enough. Love is showing up for yourself and others. Love is honesty. Love is vulnerability. Love is connection. And I had all of that. I still wanted romantic love. I still dreamed of someone looking at me the way that man looked at his girlfriend at the restaurant.
I still wanted my own love story, but I wasn't incomplete without it. I wasn't broken, I wasn't unlovable, I wasn't less than. I was whole, right now, in this moment, single or not. The understanding didn't arrive with trumpets or a sudden transformation. It arrived quietly, the way most important things do, in the middle of a Wednesday afternoon on a route I'd walked 100 times before, in the simple, unspectacular awareness that I was okay, that I was more than okay, that the woman walking down the street in jeans and her grandmother's earrings, who loved her friends fiercely and was slowly learning to love herself the same way, was already the love story. Not the waiting room before the love story, not the before photo, not the draft. The story itself, right now, already in progress, already worth reading. I got home and sat on my bed and looked at the red dress hanging on my wardrobe door. I had bought it thinking someone special would see me in it. Someone had. Me. And that, I was finally beginning to understand, was where all real love stories had to start. We went back to the same restaurant, all 5 of us, Chioma and Tunde and Blessing and Emeka and me. Same cable, same waiter with the red bow tie who recognized us somehow and raised an eyebrow in pleased surprise. Same heart-shaped dessert menu. Different people though. Emeka had been in therapy for 8 months and talked about himself with a new gentleness that had changed the energy of every room he entered. Tunde had deleted 3 dating apps and started running and reported with the wonder of someone discovering electricity that he actually enjoyed being alone sometimes. Blessing had started painting again, something she had abandoned at 17 when someone told her she wasn't talented enough, and her apartment walls were now covered in vivid, imperfect, joyful color. Chioma had passed the 8-month mark. She had told me on a Wednesday morning over coffee that she had woken up and her first thought was about a recipe she wanted to try. Not seung, a recipe. And she had lain in bed and cried, not from sadness, but from the profound, quiet relief of it. And me. I had gone on a date 2 months ago. A man named Tobena, a friend of Emeka's, who was kind and funny and looked at me like I was worth paying attention to. It was early, nothing certain. But I had shown up to that date as myself, not performing, not shrinking, not waiting for his approval to decide how I felt about the evening. I showed up whole, and it had felt for the first time in longer than I could remember, like the right way to begin. To us, Chioma raised her glass. To us, we echoed. Not to being free this time, not that hollow toast from a year ago, the one that felt like a lie the moment it left our mouths. Something truer, something earned. To our knowing our worth, Tunde said. To showing up, Blessing added. To being honest, Emeka said, and glanced around the table with the particular expression of a man who was still learning to be vulnerable and was choosing to do it anyway. To the love we already have, I said. The love that was here all along. We clinked our glasses. Outside, through the restaurant window, Lagos glittered and hummed. Couples walked by holding hands. The city was full of red and pink and candlelight and the beautiful ordinary spectacle of people reaching for each other. I watched it this time without ache, because I understood now. Love wasn't scarce. It wasn't a competition I was losing. It wasn't a destination I was running late to arrive at. It was here, at this table, in this city, in the mirror every morning when I stopped long enough to look. I was never alone, not really. I had myself, and I had these people. And slowly, imperfectly, with great stumbling and great grace, I was learning that this, all of this, was the greatest love story I had ever been part of. It had been here all along. I just had to choose to see it. The end. This story is for every person who has ever sat in a restaurant or scrolled through Instagram on Valentine's Day and felt like they were watching everyone else's movie from outside the window. You are not outside the story. You are the story. The love you are waiting for is real, and it is coming. But the love you already have for your friends, for your family, for the person you are becoming, that love is not a consolation prize. It is the foundation. And foundations are where everything worth building begins.